Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Sessions with Courtenay Pollock. Hey, Courtney.
Hello, Heidi.
We hope everyone's doing well today. We are on episode 28.
Ooh.
I know, right?
Wow.
Where's the time gone?
It just flies
It's
when you're having
fly
fun.
by. So we're at the end of 1978 and heading into 79. And I guess things are starting to get spicy for Courtney, so I'm going to let you take it away.
Thank you, Heidi.
You're welcome. Enjoy, guys.
Okay, well, one of the things that, of course, I start off like that a lot. Excuse me for. I was, running, of course, doing marathoning, and Weir was doing he was running when he was at home, and I think he did runs when he was on the road too. I called him up one day and I said, "How about we meet? I'll come over and we'll run Mount Tam, which is he lives on the lower parts of Mount Tam, a really nice spot that's convenient to town. It's just minutes into downtown Mill Valley, and of course that mountain is kind of special. The profile of it kind of looks like the Sleeping Lady. That's why, we have a restaurant down there in Fairfax called the Sleeping Lady that we did, it was a venue for music. Anyway, so we take off from his house and we run up the mountain, and he's got his dog Otis with him. He's a Malamute, a lovely dog, of course, and Otis. So we run up, we run, and then we get to this, it's like a railroad siding, and it was actually the turnaround or the terminal where the logging railroad, the railroad was built for logging, hauling logs down. And so there's this straight area, and the tracks are in there, and Weir turns around, and I said, well, what are you doing? He says, this is where I turn around. I said, nah, we're going to the top of the mountain. So we do. We continue on up, and he's up for it, and it gets steeper and steeper. And the last piece is, it's grueling. But there is a road coming around the back that actually goes all the way up, and then the last little peak, people actually, some hearty souls actually go to the very top. We're sitting up there, and Otis is like, and there's this young couple just sipping out of a bottle of cognac or something, and Weir's going, that looks really good. Maybe we could chat them up, get into their bottle. So, and they're looking up at us and tittering, and so I said, so what's amusing? They said, you only have so many breaths per lifetime, and you just used up a half of them running up the mountain. Wow. And Weir and I was just, wow, do you really believe that? He said, yeah. I said, so before we croak, can we get a shot off your cognac? So we had a few little sips off the cognac, and this young couple, they were really cute. And then it's time to go back down. And running downhill, you'd think it was really easy, right? After you just ran up a mountain. I mean, it's not, it's not that high. It's only about 2,300 feet, but that's quite a long way. So we're running down, and Weir says, well, where's Otis? Otis, we backtrack a ways. Where's Otis? And we can't find Otis. And I think, he's probably just taking it easy. So we waited around a while. We backtracked for a bit. And I said, well, he knows his way home. It's just straight down the hill, down the trail to the road to your house. And I think we just kind of said, well, if he's not back down in, half an hour, we'll go back up and look. And sure enough, he crawls into the house, and he looks like that, and he crawls up on the couch, and just, and I said, does he just usually just kind of, lay out on the couch? He said, no, he knows he's not allowed on the couch. But because he said, I'm not going to, he obviously is in a pretty hard way, or he wouldn't have just presumed to get on the couch. He's obviously really hurting. And he was stiff for days. The dog wasn't up for it, and of course they have such wonderful hearts and, brave hearts that they'll die before they give up, but his people had just run off and left him. Anyway, from then on, Weir and I ran that mountain regularly, and I remember one time I was actually in Bolinas visiting with Flying, the Persian girl. She had come over for the summer, and she was renting this beautiful place in Bolinas, and it was, I called Weir up because it was, a weekend day, and they were back from the road, and I said, want to run the mountain? He says, oh, I just took off with Matthew. I'm just taking off with Matthew from the house. We're going to run it right now. I said, okay, I'll catch up with you. He said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Bolinas. And he said, yeah, right. So Bolinas is like, you've got to go over the Pacific Ridge and all the way, down to Mill Valley, up to, Weir's house, or, as high as you can go on the road, and then hit the trails. I take off, I race over the Pacific Ridge, and it's about, it's really a half an hour's drive. I did about 18 minutes, and up the trail, and got onto the trail, and chugging my way up the mountain. Before they weren't even halfway to the top yet, and I caught up with them. They like, Weir goes, where do you come from? I said, well, from Bolinas. I told you on the phone. He said, what, you got a helicopter? So he was with his friend Matthew that he sometimes did music with. And we went on up to the top, and he was just still, shaking his head. He said, how did you get from Bolinas and catch us up halfway up the mountain? I said, well, I'm in good shape. Anyway, that was a nice little remembrance, and we continued to run the mountain for years. And coming back from Egypt, now I did mention that the whole coffee shop purchase and all of that development happened after we got back from Egypt. I was a little out of my timeline when I talked about the story earlier, but they're going well. I opened up the second one in Point Reyes Station at the old Bank of America building, and we've talked about that a little bit. But everything's going well. I'm growing mushrooms in the cellar of my house. I've got I opened up the patch on the hillside and put in my plants, and I've got a trailer up on, secreted on the property where I've got a lab and I'm tinkering with some chemistry, and things are really good. And I'm writing, as I had mentioned, a translation of intelligence from the pyramid, and it turned out into essentially like a parallel to the Tarot, with the 78 stations of journey and the 22 major arcana, and all of this extraordinary stuff that came through. And my tie-dyeing is kind of taking a back seat. I'm still keeping it up, but I'm not actively working the business because I'm doing other things. And one of the things that happened right after Egypt is that Keith and Donna Gaucho left the band, and Brent Midland joined the band, and shortly after they were cutting the Go to Heaven album, and where they're all wearing white suits on a white album, and it was a nice album. I was in on the I'd sit in on a lot of the studio takes at that time, and eventually Keith and Donna, they were kind of dispossessed, and they had Zion, their child, their boy, with them, and they moved into my house. I had left Inverness Park house. The bakeries had, when they came up for release, each of the owners decided they want to keep it because they were doing so well. They wanted to they didn't renew the lease. They took over the businesses because they couldn't take, our sourdough starter and all of our recipes. But they had a go at just continuing it as a bakery, coffee house, and with pizzas. They both failed. 3 months and they were closed down. They just failed because they made everything cheap again, and I took my my espresso machines with me, and they just back to just ordinary coffee and crap bakeries, and they failed miserably because they tried to steal it from me. Anyway, but I'm out. That's gone. I'm still working on my seed bank. That's good. But because I had to move, I put everything in containers, and so where I could move and I was just growing for seed now, not for smoke. So that was moving along. Keith and Donna moved into my house, and I had got this new house in San Geronimo, and it was a nice place. It had its peculiarities. It felt a bit creepy, really. But it's just old, I guess. And so Keith and I were working on some songs. He was doing the band with Greg Anton, and they called it Zero. But when I actually looked up Zero, there was no record of their band being, there was some 1980s Brazilian band being called Zero. And when I proposed to Keith, because Keith always has this, it's a big-hearted person, quiet, big heart, a generous and loving person. And so I said, we're going to call it the Heart of Gold Band, which is also a line from Grateful Dead song. So it seemed appropriate. And when I looked it up, it actually is named, it had been renamed. Greg Anton confirmed the name Heart of Gold Band, which is kind of delightful. And so Keith and Donna are staying at the house with Zion. Keith and I going to the studio, most evenings and working on some songs. I'm doing lyrics and singing, and he's creating music. And then there, this is the really tough part. And then this has been going on some months, and I kind of skipped some time, but a lot happened so fast. It was hard to put it all in perspective. I might backtrack to that whole period during '79, but now we're into 1980, and Keith and I work all night at the studio, and then we're coming back in the morning, and it's 11 in the morning. We're driving back, and we're having this really deep philosophical conversation, and we're getting up towards the golf course, and San Geronimo is at the other end of the golf course on the left there, heading out towards Samuel P. Taylor Park. So he says, how about we take, the turn off at Woodacre and take the little windy back road back to San Geronimo through the redwoods and, finish our conversation. I said, that's, good idea. So we turn off, and there's this sign that says roadworks ahead, and there's a few little pipe trenches, and so we're driving along, we're in second gear, and we went for, 2 miles, and we got to the end of our conversation, and Keith was, he was just saying, he said, I'm right now in my life, I've always felt uncomfortable in my body and, awkward about some certain things. He said, right now in my life, just, here with you, I'm the happiest I've ever been. in my life. And he said, I think the roadworks are over. And I said, yeah, I think so too. We haven't seen any signs. We passed Pike Diggings miles back. We speed up, going to third gear, come around the corner, and there's a rock quarry truck sitting right in our lane, and there's a McPhail's propane tanker backing out of a driveway, blocking the other side of the road of the lane, of our little country lane. And beyond that, there's kids on horseback and kids playing soccer in the road, and the flagmen are having lunch by the side of the road, and there's nobody on duty. And it was just like we came around the bend and there was nowhere to go. We hit the back of the rock truck. And I wake up in ICU, and I'd been 6 hours on the operating table, and lucky to be alive, I guess. And Keith is in a separate room, and we were both on life support, and we were both critical. Keith really, he had no real obvious damage, but he banged his head. I don't know if he had his seatbelt on, or even if I did, I don't remember. But when you have a trauma like that, you don't remember some stuff. It took me a while to remember up to the time of the car wreck. It took me a month or so. There was just no memory of it. And so I think it was on the third day, and those 3 days were a long time. I was having my lungs aspirated because I'm drowning in my fluid that's being, developed in the lungs. They had removed most of my right lung, reconstructed all these ropes back and front because it was just crushed the right side of my body, and liver, a whole bunch of liver was gone. And I'm on life support. I'm tied to the cot because they think you're delirious. You could pull out all your tubes, which is rubbish. Well, for me it was, but you couldn't talk. You're on life support. Real nightmare. And all I could think of, was how's Keith? And I finally got a pencil and paper, and I was trying to. They said around my bed, I don't know, it was the second day or so. The surgeon was there, and there was a lot of friends around, and they were saying, well, how can we get hold of his parents? He may not last the night, and I was like, and my Alan Triss, who he and I really connected psychically, and he understood that I wanted a piece of pencil and paper, and I wrote down, I went, and coming from this, deep, dark place where, I was at death's door, I tried to go, the first number, it was 0685, it was like this long number that I remembered, but the first trying to do a zero, it was like, and they said, oh, he's, he doesn't know what he's doing, and I was like, Alan said, give him a minute, and I finally got this number, and he said, okay, phone this number, and there was my dad on the end. Mm-hmm. 02685 30625, something like that.
You still remember?
And yes, he's been terribly hurt in a car accident, and my dad says, well, he's terribly strong. If anybody can, pull out of it, he will. And they say, well, that's, encouraging, but I just have to tell you that, it's really bad. She said, oh, thank you for telling me. Can I speak to him? And I said, well, I'm afraid not. He's on life support. And anyway, and I was like, got the pencil. I was like, how's Keith? And so Keith he's in another room. He's fine. And apparently this goes back a long way, and I remember it from childhood when a friend of my parents, their son was killed, and in a car wreck, and he and his buddy, basically the pattern is they usually die at the same time. They either later or together, but there's like this, it's just a phenomenon. So they had taken this stance in the Western world to not let the other one know that the one was not going to make it or has died or something, they say it's fine because that gives some support to that one surviving. So they were telling me Keith was okay, but he had banged his head, and he didn't have a brain wave. So on the third day they took him off life support, and at this I knew something was going on. There was all the Grateful Dead going to his room, and a lot of them around my bed. And I remember there was Beta was at the foot of my bed, Alan was right by me, and McIntyre. There's a lot of the wonderful friends around me for support, because they knew they were going to take Keith off, let him go, and that would be a critical time for me, because we would connect even though I didn't know about it. I psychically did. And then my body goes into a grand mal seizure. I've got all these metal staples holding they unzip me from here up to here, open me all up to did the operation. They're all clamped back together with big metal staples, and like Frankenstein. And my body starts going through grand mal seizure. I can't see the breathing machine to help me breathe. I can't feel the breathing. I don't know when it's coming in and going out. There's no, and Alan said, he can't see where the breath is coming in. And Beta got a hold of my feet, and she pressed in at the bottom of my feet for every in-breath that came into the thing, which I couldn't see up behind me. And I did, I knew I was dying. My body was dying. And I called on my yogic experience, and to flood the area with prana and do an instant healing, and to save my life and bring my body under control. And right as this is going on, I'm visualizing flooding the area with prana, and I can feel my body, gaining control and settling back down. And as I kind of relaxed back onto the bed, there was Keith right next to me. He was dressed as he was in Egypt. He had on a black galabeah with a white t-shirt under it, and he looked like a priest. And he was saying, "Come on, Courtenay, we've got to go now. Come on, we're leaving now." Anyway, I just said, "Sorry, Keith, I can't go. I've got things I have to do." That was that. So anyway, then I, eventually got out of there and recovered, and started my life again.
Do you want to leave it there?
Yeah.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to leave you guys today, and
Sorry,
we'll
guys.
we'll pick up again. Thanks for sharing, Courtenay. I know it was really hard.